Hello everyone, Canon Loy here with Path of Exile, and the new league has started last Friday. So, as of recording this is the 4th day of the league, and I'm already level 85. So, me and Warmonger have really put in some time so far. But with this league, they did some minor tweaks to some of the skills, like animate weapon, I think siege ballista, and some stuff. They heavily nerfed necromancer and some of the minion skills, and then they nerfed pyroclast mine quite substantially, and they also nerfed the mine throwing speed by roughly 20%. I decided to do mines anyway. And as you can see here, like, the mine throwing speed is still good enough. It's still faster than traps, so it's all good on that end. So Delirium League, as it's called. So how it works is that every time you enter an area, you see a giant mirror. It's kind of like, as many people have called it, it's sort of like Breach 2.0, but on a much grander scale in pretty much every aspect. For Breach, when you open the Breach, you get a swarm of enemies all around the area that you spawn the Breach at, and then it maximizes at a certain size. Well, for Delirium, it affects the entire area, first of all, and secondly, the monsters seem to be a lot harder than the Breach monsters. Because Breach, like, they kind of, you pretty much get killed typically by being overwhelmed by the number of enemies rather than the relative strength of the individual monsters. But in Delirium, they have a lot of monsters, and they are very strong. So that's kind of a reason why I haven't gotten to this yet, is getting to the point where I can actually do the Delirium encounters, or at least when Warmonger is along. I am fully expecting to actually get killed from this demonstration, because the Delirium monsters, they have a lot of area of effect attacks, they have a lot of long range attacks, and I'm just going to say this right now: if you are not confident in your build being strong, then Delirium League is pretty much not for you. The monsters are pretty much like 3 to 4 times harder than the usual enemies are. And then they, like I said, they have a lot of ranged attacks and AoE attacks that cause a lot of problems. So once you enter the mirror, before I actually enter here, you'll see an icon in the lower left-hand corner, and that will give you a guaranteed reward. It seems to be random what it is, but it can be anything from weapons, armor, currency, blight stuff, metamorph stuff, incubators, etc. It seems to be randomized on what it is, and you have a chance of getting splinters from the monsters from Delirium, and it's kind of like pretty much anything else that has splinters. As soon as you get 100, you can fight the super boss of the league, which I have no intention of doing myself. And then the other thing is that you will also see a bar fill up on whatever that is, and that means the more you kill of the Delirium monsters, the more reward that you will get, up to however much you're able to kill. It's kind of like stacking your reward the more that you kill. And if you feel overwhelmed by the Delirium at any time, as long as you stay in an area for an extended period of time, the fog will eventually dissipate, and then the monsters will go back to normal, which is really nice. The only thing, though, is that you actually have to have a build that is fast enough to... Well, you don't have to be extremely fast, like it's not super fast-paced, but the fog moves in one direction. So you have to keep up with it if you want to keep that reward going. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I'm gonna throw out mines right from the start here.
You will never escape this nightmare.
So even in areas that don't have monsters initially, can spawn enemies. As you can see here, they're decidedly pretty tanky. But that might have been because of proximity shield too.
By the time we're through, no one will be able to tell you.
And it also buffs the normal enemies too. So if you find like the zombies and stuff, they are a little bit harder or have extra moves. So as you can see here, I am getting Harbinger reward this time. So we're trying to fill up that bar by killing as many enemies as we can. And then you see all of the area of effect attacks that have really long range. So keep that in mind. And then once you're at the edge of the Delirium, like it keeps moving, it will give you a timer. And as soon as that timer runs out, well, it gives you your loot, just like that. At your feet when it ends. So overall, this league is, if you have a strong enough build to do the Delirium encounters, you can get a lot of good stuff. So as you can see here, I have gotten a Harbinger Orb, which is pretty good, as well as some Orb of Horizons and whatnot, so not bad. So that is how Delirium works. Overall, I really like the mechanic of it. Especially the rewards are much greater than I would have ever thought that they would have that they would give. But at the same time, the power of them is quite ridiculous, or at least when I was first starting maps, it was that sense where like pretty much every time I would activate a mirror that I was pretty much guaranteed to die and not do anything for the rest of the Delirium encounter. So maybe this is because I'm level 85 in a tier 4 map, so level 71. Maybe my build is just that much better than it used to be, but when I was first entering maps, Delirium was something that I thoroughly went out of my way to avoid, or at least in leveling for sure. While you're leveling, when you have that spam and your character isn't built yet, basically, it is extremely difficult to do what you need to do for that and get survive long enough to get a decent reward. So overall, this league, I think it's good. It's just you really need at least a somewhat decent build for it. Which, I mean, you could say that pretty much about anything in endgame Path of Exile, but especially with these encounters. But if you can do it, just like you saw there, you can get some really good rewards. I mean, Warmonger and I have gotten an Exalted Orb from one of the drops. We've gotten Divine Orbs. You know, those high-level currency. So, overall, good stuff. and I like to think of the mirror as giving Silent Hill influence to your to your area. But yeah, so Breach 2.0, it's overall pretty much living up to what it is, to what that name implies. And they also, now that I think of it, they also buffed delving and incursions, and it seems that they have buffed breaches to have more enemies in them as well, so that's another thing to keep into account. So hopefully this was enough to show you, well, if you aren't already and have tried out Delirium League for yourself, whether or not you would like to engage in the madness and explore. I'm not even sure what his name is. Strange voice. The strange character's illusions and gaining that Silent Hill influence in pretty much every aspect of the Atlas. So, thank you very much for watching and have a wonderful day.